Congratulations on your victory. You took this fight on a 6-day notice. Were you ready for a fight? You were just waiting for a phone call? Tell us the story how this fight came about.
Yeah, I was definitely ready. I did an MMA fight a couple weeks ago, so I had already put in a whole camp, and the hardest part of this was the weight cut, but I knew I was in shape and ready to fight.
There are some fighters that like to do that, just change or transition from MMA, boxing, or bare knuckle fighting. Is there an advantage to fighters that do that, or is it just to stick to one particular sport?
I think it's an advantage for MMA fighters. They might not have the same boxing skills, and I'm not talking about myself, I'm just talking about in general. They may not have the same boxing skills, but in the clinch on the inside, it helps so much. The way you can spin people around, the way you can manipulate the arms and the hands to get where you want to be. I think there's a big advantage in that.
Speaking of the clinch, that's what made the change in this fight. You had him in the clinch, and it was almost kind of hard to see, but it seemed that it was the uppercut that pretty much took down your opponent.
Yeah, there was a right hook in there somewhere that I think wobbled him a little bit, and then he initiated the clinch and grabbed with one hand, and that's when I hit him with the uppercut. When I hit him with the uppercut, I felt his legs buckle a little bit, so I knew one more good shot and it was going to be over.
Some fighters are kind of hesitant to take a fight on a short day notice, but you're not that type of fighter.
No, not at all, especially bare knuckle. This is my world. I'm a good boxer. Like I've always trained MMA. But I've thrived in bare knuckle. I'm 3-1. I've never been cut. I've never been bruised. It's just my style of fighting, so it works out good for me.
This is the first time competing in BYB in the Trigon, which is a completely different area that you're fighting. Tell me some of the advantages, disadvantages. Do you like it more than in a ring?
I actually really liked it. So I fought on a bunch of different surfaces. I fought for Valley where there's no ring and no ropes. I fought in octagons. I fought in boxing rings. I fought everywhere. This is definitely different, but I enjoyed it. And it's actually a little bigger than I thought. On TV, it looks really small. I mean, it's small, but it's a little bigger than you think, and there's room to move in there.
Do you think there's a particular strategy on how to be successful on the Trigon, particular footwork exercises that you should do?
Yeah, so in the Trigon, there's a specific strategy just because you can't get trapped in those little tiny corners. You got to get out, and I think that's where me being an MMA fighter for so long has benefited me, where I can clinch up in those corners if somebody's pressuring me and be able to spin them around and get out of there.
About your opponent, he went on social media and said that it was an honor to share the Trigon with you, and he wanted to put on a show. That's something very respectful coming in prior to the fight, knowing that you took this fight on 6 notice. How did you take that prior to that?
I really appreciate that my opponent reached out and said that. Before the fight, I was trying not to be too friendly because you have to get in a certain mindset to go in there and hurt somebody like that. So I didn't want to be too friendly. He can't be my friend until after the fight's over, but now that it's over, I really appreciate it, and I respect that a lot.
You said you took an MMA fight not long ago. Is that the same story for 2025? You're going to flip from MMA to bare knuckle, or are you going to stick to bare knuckle?
I think I'm going to stick to bare knuckle. I've said I was going to stick to bare knuckle for a while. MMA is more of an ego thing because I trained it for so long I like to, but my skill set is definitely better here than it is in MMA. I'm Joshua Sikes with Bare Knuckle News, and nobody beats us to the punch.